What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie, Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. So I'm gonna go ahead and preface this whole video, by saying this one might be a long one, because this back half of Drowned Earth is the story arc written by Scott Snyder and Dan Abnett, with artwork mostly by Paco Medina and Francis Manapul. This story arc, man, the back half of it is loaded. And what I'm talking about here is Justice League number 11 and 12, Aquaman number 42, and Aquaman Justice League Drowned Earth number 1. So we're not going to stand on ceremony. We are about to jump right into it. But before we get started, it only takes 2 clicks to become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers. Click, click. Man, we got a lot to catch up on, so just in case you have not watch the previous video I did on Justice League Drowned Earth Part 1. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you right now, you probably should go watch that video before you hear anything I have to say right here, but I am gonna say this much, is that last time we left off, the Earth was drowned by the Triumvirate, alien sea gods who were released from the graveyard of the gods when the source wall came crashing down, and Aquaman lost his powers to Black Manta, thanks to said sea gods. And now, we know Superman's eye was damaged during the fight with Gaul or Drogue, I don't really remember which one it was, and Flash has been infected by the floodwater. But he's been using his super speed to shake up his molecules and stave off the infection for as long as he can. But fortunately, they run into Mira, the Queen of Atlantis, which is now gone, and off they go to the tomb of Arian to try to capture the Tear of Extinction, one of the few things on Earth that can kill a god. Also, Aquaman was taken to the Great Whirlpool by the sea gods, the Triumvirate, and they force him to walk the plank the same way that Arian and Poseidon made them so many centuries ago. But Aquaman manages to fight back enough and is saved by Wonder Woman. And in order to stop the sea gods from completely drowning the Earth and destroying it even more than they already have, they go to the graveyard of the gods and see if Poseidon will return Aquaman's powers. And Batman is fighting for his life as the Legion of Doom have stormed the Hall of Justice now that it's left nearly defenseless. Batman's probably the easiest part to talk about here, because you gotta remember, Lex Luthor broke Batman's arms and legs, so that's why he's in that really, kind of crazy armored suit. It's what's helping him be able to walk and use his arms, but you gotta remember, this thing is not necessarily made for combat. So Batman has to deuce out, knowing that Lex has come for the totality. And in doing so, Lex Luthor has unleashed 2 new hidden forces that were, as of this point, not yet revealed, at least not completely. And one of those is the Life Force. We technically saw this in Justice League Aquaman Drowned Earth number 1, but we really didn't know entirely what it was. And I'm not going to talk about it right here, right now. We're going to save more talk about the Life Force for a little bit later when it's a little bit more pertinent. It'll be in this video, just not right this second. And Lex Luthor and Cheetah also destroy the key to the graveyard of the gods in order to unlock its realm and essentially destroy it so that they can get to the thing that they want. More importantly, they now have the totality, which is the power of creation. But it just so happens Batman didn't escape. He just ran to get a better bat suit. Or should I say, Lex suit. He goes and gets Lex Luthor's old mech suit from when they defeated him a long time ago, and uses that so that he can actually combat the Legion of Doom, but it doesn't really matter because Lex has what he wants. Lex knows that Batman can't do anything to him right now, and even if he did, the damage is already done. Plus, he knows the walls of the Hall of Justice are about to come crashing down, making way for the floodwater to overtake the place and essentially leave Batman turned into a fish person. So, as far as he's concerned, the Legion is out, and they leave Batman to his fate. As for Aquaman and Wonder Woman, I told you earlier they travel to the graveyard of the gods. Only when they get there, they find and imprison Poseidon, withered and broken, because remember, Cheetah used the Tear of Extinction to kill Poseidon, which I know a lot of people were like, oh, how the heck can she do that? That's the thing. The Tear of Extinction, it kills a god, and yet it kind of doesn't. What it does is it sends them to the graveyard of the gods. It's an incredibly crazy prison, and you gotta imagine, if Poseidon has only been there for a few days, and he's already this withered and broken, imagine what it did to the Triumvirate. They were locked in there for centuries. Right here, right now, Arthur is begging Poseidon to give him his powers back. And because of the nature of things down in the graveyard of the gods and the state of Poseidon, he decides to help him in the only way that he knows how, by impaling him with the Trident of Poseidon. But this isn't a death, it's more of a spirit journey, taking Arthur to his childhood and teaching him that ultimately he is more than the sum of his powers, and he learns that sometimes you must know when to fight and when not to, and taking the help of others makes him no less a king. And once he realizes this, he becomes adult Arthur again, and despite losing his aquapathy, his allies never forgot him, and they help him find his way through this weird spirit journey under the sea. And now that Aquaman has completed this, he chin checks Poseidon, only to learn Poseidon wasn't trying to kill him, he was trying to give him the life force. One of the hidden forces that I mentioned earlier. The force itself basically grants the person wielding it to all life in the universe, not to mention telepathic powers similar to Aquaman's own aquapathy. Technically, even though this force is new and was hidden, Aquaman had it the whole time. What Poseidon was trying to do was channel the life force that he wields through his trident, and of course by impaling Arthur with it, that would have given it to him. But since Arthur doesn't have his core powers, he can't take the life force back. We are about to get a lot of truths here in just a second. We learn the truth about what happened all those centuries ago when Poseidon and Arion summoned the sea gods to Earth, and why the Triumvirate are so salty about that encounter, because when the sea gods revealed their intentions, they kind of came off as being invaders, that they didn't come to Earth to commune with its sea god, that it came to take over that Earth. That wasn't actually entirely true. They actually were young sea gods, gods that were much younger than Poseidon himself, and they answered Poseidon's call, and they came to Earth seeking the life force that Poseidon and Arion possessed. Poseidon and Arion had originally offered to share this life force with those gods so that they could spread it to their own worlds and help their worlds flourish. The problem is that Poseidon became greedy. The power was so great that he decided he didn't want to share it. And Arion, who was originally incredibly gung-ho about sharing the life force, Poseidon poisoned his mind and tricked him into thinking that the sea gods that were coming, the Triumvirate, he tricked them into believing that they would come to kill them and take the life force by force. This wasn't true at all. And Arion, being a genius level sorcerer and engineer, Arion created a conch that was originally meant to carry the life force, and he twisted it to carry nothing but death. He was able to take the life force and turn a portion of it into the Tear of Extinction, the very thing that Cheetah used to send Poseidon to the graveyard of the gods. And they used this very same Tear of Extinction against Gaul, Drogue, and Tide, killing the sea gods before the sea gods would, quotey fingers, kill them, something that was never going to happen. The very same conch and the very same Tear of Extinction that the Justice League now need to save their own drowned Earth. Now, of course, because Cheetah and Lex destroyed the key to the graveyard of the gods, it's now crumbling around Arthur and Wonder Woman. And Poseidon knows he can't leave, so what he does is he uses the last of his power to send Aquaman and Wonder Woman away from the graveyard of the gods back to Earth, and gives Aquaman his trident, the Trident of Poseidon. And this is one of those interesting moments because, once again, this also kind of shows the power of the graveyard of the gods, even during its destruction. Even though Poseidon knows that he wronged these sea gods, even though he knows that he took these gods and corrupted them and turned them from being what would have probably grown to be benevolent gods, he turned them into malicious, malevolent creatures. And though he feels he did a great wrong, he still feels that Arthur should kill them. And this is even after he tells Arthur that he should pity them. So he kind of sends a really weird mixed message. Meanwhile, in the tomb of Arion, Soups, Mira, and Fishy Flash are trapped by Black Manta and Drogue, who now have the Tear of Extinction, because they were able to get there before Mira and company. But this whole time, Flash has been slowly turning into one of these trench-like fish creatures. And as a result of this, now that Black Manta has the life force, essentially Aquaman's powers, he's slowly becoming more susceptible to Black Manta's commands, though he's still able to fight them off. But that doesn't matter, because Black Black Manta has summoned all of the infected heroes and villains across the entire globe, pretty much, to come and crush Superman, Flash, and Mera. It doesn't take long for Mera to realize that what Black Manta has isn't what they need. Yes, he has the Tear of Extinction, but that wasn't the only source. You see, when Arian created the Tear of Extinction, it became a part of him. So now that they're in Arian's tomb and his bones are literally within spitting distance, Mera is able to take the water within Arian's bones and shape it into a sword of water, essentially creating a new Tear of Extinction. And now that she's done so, the Justice League now have the power to fell a god, namely Drogue. Mera unleashes the Tear, near fatally injuring Drogue enough that he wants to get the hell out of Dodge, and she uses the Tear to cause the floodwaters to recede. But even as Manta and Drogue retreat, they release the Death Kraken. They realize that their time is up, that they can no longer play around with this drowned Earth. Desperate times are now calling for desperate measures. And they release the Death Kraken, a beast so powerful, each of its tentacles has destroyed a world, and its mouth has eaten countless species. Its very touch can destroy all ocean life in the water that it stands in. The only trick with the Death Kraken is that it's a wild creature, it's not easily controlled, which is why Commander Drogue had the Bone Crown. It's an artifact that allows its wielder to control the Death Kraken, even if only a little bit. It's almost more like you're nudging the Death Kraken in the direction you want it to go. And at this particular point, they can only draw the Kraken down. They have to maintain a full leash on it because otherwise it could even turn on them. Now that everything is coming together, Arthur and Wonder Woman, they wind up saving Mera, Superman, and Flash, getting them to safety as all of the infected heroes and villains of the DC Universe were beginning to overwhelm them. And also they get fancy +1 outfits with magic abilities that protect them against the infectious floodwater. Now at this particular point, Arthur explains to the League why he wants to save the sea gods. He explains to them everything that we now know about the Triumvirate and how Poseidon betrayed them and poisoned Arian's mind. Despite that, Mera is not exactly on board with his plan. She thinks that Arthur should kill them, that he should just nip the whole thing in the bud before it gets any worse than it already is. But Arthur, being Aquaman, he doesn't want to do that. He wants to save them because he wants to right the wrong of Poseidon. Regardless of all that, if they don't unleash the spires of Atlantis, the very buildings that made up Atlantis' skyline so many centuries ago that were designed by Arian and the Amazons of Themyscira, they must unleash these spires because they can actually destroy any shield, any membrane, anything they actually touch. And if they unleash these spires, they can destroy the barrier that the Triumvirate have put around the Earth. And this would allow the League to reach their ships and hopefully stop them from destroying their world. And to do this, Wonder Woman must travel to the center of the Earth, to the hidden tunnels underneath Atlantis that they discovered during Dark Knight's Metal. And it's here where she will activate the spires. And while she's doing that, the Justice League have to hold off the Death Kraken and try to keep it from touching down into the water, because if they do, well, all sea life is doomed, and if the water is completely corrupted, even if they were to stop the sea gods, the Earth is still doomed. Now, the tricky part for Wonder Woman is that while she's trying to activate the spires, she's attacked by Cheetah, who we now know her claws are coated in the Tear of Extinction, so she now has the ability to kill Diana. And that's what makes this fight so tense, especially when you go back and look at the history that Wonder Woman and Cheetah have, especially over the last 60 some odd issues of Wonder Woman's Rebirth run. And of course, Cheetah does manage to wound Diana, but she doesn't kill her. Diana will survive the gash that Cheetah leaves in her side, but fortunately for Wonder Woman, Batman in Lex's mech armor arrives and is able to take down Cheetah so that Wonder Woman can get the job done. It's also here that we learn that apparently when Martian Manhunter was made leader of the Justice League, Wonder Woman was made second in command, which is how Batman got there. He didn't know Diana was there. He just asked the Hall of Justice to teleport him to the second in command. Now, things get messy when Arthur realizes that even with the Trident of Poseidon and Mira's help, he can't get through to the Triumvirate. Even with the Spires having destroyed the shield, Arthur still can't get through to them, no matter what he does, no matter how hard he tries. And with the shield being broken down, Drogue decides to unleash the full power of the Death Kraken, letting it run roughshod over the Earth, making the fight even harder for the Justice League, who are still trying to fight the damn thing back. But it's probably for the best that the Death Kraken is unleashing its full terror, because it just so happens that the vessel that Arthur and Mira were on, that they were riding to try and get to Tide and the others, is destroyed, causing Mira to take a nasty bump on the head. And it's when she awakens she realizes that the conch and the Tear of Extinction were corrupting her, in the same way that Arian was corrupted, driving her to want to kill the gods instead of save them. Aquaman's calls to the alien sea gods, it wasn't that they didn't hear them, it's just that he needed to be on a different frequency. The conch has been aligned with death, not life. Aquaman must use the power of the Trident and whatever powers he still has inside of himself to transform the conch back to being an instrument of life as opposed to being an instrument of death. And once he manages to do so, he hands the conch over to Mira. Because Arthur is no longer king of Atlantis, the person who should give the message should be the ruler, and that would be Mira. And Mira, though she's reluctant to do it at first because she doesn't know what to do in this particular situation, she unleashes a message in the same way that Poseidon and Arian did so many centuries ago, showing the world that she wants to create, the dreams that she has for unity for all of the different sea gods across the universe. A union of peace, unity, and prosperity. A message so powerful that even the Triumvirate have to take notice. They even decide to hear out what Aquaman and Mira have to say, and Aquaman lays everything out on the line. He tells them, you can have the Trident of Poseidon. Poseidon's trident was supposed to be given to them in the first place, all those centuries ago. It's not his to keep, it's theirs, regardless of what happens. And even though Tide is skeptical, because as far as she's concerned, they've already done so much damage to their world, why would Aquaman give them such a powerful weapon when they've already pretty much won? And this actually convinces Tide to parlay and end the war, even if it's only temporarily. Even Commander Drogue offers to call off the Death Kraken, because maybe the time for death and destruction is past and maybe it's time to actually try peace for a change. Unfortunately, it's about roughly this time that Lex Luthor has been trying to get Black Manta to get the hell out of Dodge, because Lex sees the writing on the wall. The Justice League are starting to win this fight, and now it's no place for Black Manta to hang around. But Black Manta has his own ambitions, and he decides to kill Commander Drogue, stabbing him in the back and taking the Bone Crown, allowing him to control the Death Kraken and unleash it on not just the Justice League, but the Triumvirate as well. Well, what's left of them. Not only that, but we learn that Cheetah wasn't the only one who coded her weapons in the Tear of Extinction. Black Manta did the same, treating all of his blades with it, throwing one of his swords into Gaul's heart. And he even does the same to Tide, but Aquaman's able to stop the blade from completely piercing her chest. And now that Black Manta has all the power that he ever wanted, you can tell it's driven him almost completely insane. Because now his ambitions have grown beyond just taking over the Earth's oceans. Now he wants to take over every ocean in the universe. But at the end of the day, Black Manta didn't take one thing into consideration, that while he's telling Lex to go eat a dick, and he's deciding to give off his grand supervillain monologue to the Justice League, he forgets that the sea giveth and the sea taketh away. Tide gave Black Manta Aquaman's powers, and she can take them back and return them to where they came from. And she does so. Black Manta, he's still talking spicy. He still thinks that, oh, Aquaman's gonna do is use it to talk to fish anyway. What difference would it make? But that's the thing Black Manta didn't consider. Being able to talk to fish is pretty damn useful when every hero and villain on Earth is a fish. Aquaman is able to easily stop Black Manta, because at this point Black Manta is no match for him once Aquaman has his abilities back, and of course he's got a little help from his friends. But the true problem is that the Death Kraken is still coming down on the Earth and is about to make Seafall. So Aquaman makes the ultimate sacrifice, taking one of the Triumvirate ships against Mira's wishes, because Mira knows what he's about to do, She knows that he is going to sacrifice himself. She begs him not to, but Aquaman does it anyway, calling back to a conversation they had earlier when he said that he never told her goodbye, which is why he was able to return to her. But here, he says that he is telling her goodbye, in the way that mariners would say goodbye, wishing her fair winds and following seas. And he drives the ship into the maw of the Death Kraken, destroying it, and presumably himself. Tide uses a combination of her own powers and the Trident of Poseidon to get rid of the floodwater that had basically drowned the Earth and turning all the humans back to normal. Everything will go back to the way it was. Their lives will be just as they were before they were changed. Not only that, she leaves them with the memory of who saved them. The Earth will remember that Arthur Curry sacrificed himself to save all of humanity. That's infinite respect on Aquaman's name right there alone. And Tide promises to take the message that Mira gave her, the message of peace, unity, prosperity between all of the civilizations and gods across the universe, and make it a reality. And of course, Aquaman is enshrined back at Atlantis, but Wonder Woman has the sinking suspicion that Aquaman isn't dead, because at the time, he was connected to them through the life force. If he truly died, they would have known. And Wonder Woman, of course being one of the biggest believers there is in the Justice League, she knows Arthur is still out there somewhere. And of course we know he is. We just don't know where. And there you have it. That is the end of Drowned Earth. And like I said, this one was a pretty good story. I actually like the idea of impossible odds, which is something DC's always been really good at when it comes to dealing with Justice League story arcs. But one of the things I really liked about it is that it didn't end with there having to be this tremendous fight, that it didn't have to end with Aquaman having to kill anybody. It ended with Aquaman trying to do the right thing and talking to the bad guys, who we ultimately learned weren't really the bad guys. So I always like storytelling like that. I like it when my expectations are subverted. I like it when people do things that are outside the box. And this is also one of those times where I feel like Scott Snyder actually stuck the landing on this one. So I really like this book. And of course, they put a very interesting twist on the zombie format, with the humans being turned into mindless fish creatures. But anyways, let me know what you thought about the Drowned Earth. Sound off in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, Hulk smash that like button. And if you want to see more awesome videos like this one, make sure you click subscribe so you can become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers and tap that bell so you know when I post up. And if you want to become one of Earth's mightiest patrons as well, swing on over by patreon.com/blerdwithoutfear. And if you chuck in a buck, you can get some exclusive content. And if you don't want to become one of Earth's mightiest patrons, that's fine too. Hey, all I ask is that you like this video and share it with your friends. And who knows, maybe they'll become some of Earth's mightiest subscribers too. Anyways, thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and while you're here, go ahead and check out some of these other videos I got floating around here. But until next time, Plus Ultra!